Titanic, the ship that never sank. By Robin Gardiner. Introduction. The sinking of the Titanic is one of the most famous maritime disasters in history. On April 15, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank in the North Atlantic Ocean, killing over 1,500 people. The disaster was a major public scandal, and it led to a number of changes in maritime safety regulations. However, there is a theory that the Titanic never actually sank. This theory was first proposed by Robin Gardiner in his book Titanic, the Ship That Never Sank, which was published in 1986. Gardiner argues that the ship that sank was actually the Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic, which was disguised as the Titanic in an insurance scam. Gardiner's theory has been widely debunked by historians and maritime experts, but it remains a popular topic of discussion among Titanic enthusiasts. In this article, I will explore Gardiner's theory in detail and examine the evidence that he has presented to support it. The evidence. Gardiner's theory is based on a number of pieces of evidence. First, he points out that the Titanic was insured for a much larger amount than the Olympic. This suggests that the White Star Line, the Titanic's owners, had something to gain from the Titanic sinking. Second, Gardiner notes that the Olympic had been involved in a collision with a warship a few years before the Titanic sank. This collision had damaged the Olympic's hull, and it is possible that the White Star Line decided to sink the Titanic in order to avoid having to pay for the repairs to the Olympic. Third, Gardiner points out that there are a number of discrepancies between the accounts of the Titanic sinking and the physical evidence that has been recovered from the wreck. For example, the Titanic's passengers and crew reported that the ship broke in half before it sank. However, the wreck of the Titanic shows that the ship sank intact. The debunking. Gardiner's theory has been widely debunked by historians and maritime experts. They argue that Gardiner's evidence is circumstantial and that there is no physical proof to support his theory. In addition, they argue that Gardiner's theory is based on a number of assumptions that are not supported by the evidence. For example, historians point out that there is no evidence that the White Star Line had anything to gain from the Titanic sinking. The Titanic was a very successful ship, and it was generating a lot of revenue for the White Star Line. There is no reason to believe that the White Star Line would have deliberately sunk the Titanic in order to collect insurance money. In addition, maritime experts point out that the discrepancies between the accounts of the Titanic sinking and the physical evidence can be explained by the fact that the Titanic was a very chaotic event. There was a lot of confusion and panic, and it is not surprising that there are some inconsistencies in the accounts of what happened. Conclusion. The evidence that Gardiner has presented to support his theory is circumstantial and inconclusive. There is no physical proof to support his theory, and his claims are based on a number of assumptions that are not supported by the evidence. For these reasons, Gardiner's theory has been widely debunked by historians and maritime experts. However, the theory remains a popular topic of discussion among Titanic enthusiasts. Some people believe that Gardiner is correct, while others believe that he is simply a conspiracy theorist. Ultimately, the question of whether or not the Titanic really sank is a matter of speculation. There is no definitive answer, and the evidence is inconclusive. However, the theory that the Titanic never sank is a fascinating one, and it continues to capture the imagination.